Hello, Internet, to the dozen people who watch my videos of Lords of Salem and of To the Wonder. I'm doing another video, but as you can tell by the title, Block v Mock, I am reviewing two movies, in fact. One being the new Will Smith film, After Earth, and the other being the Asylum's Apocalypse Earth. And then I'm just going to compare and contrast. For those who don't know, the Asylum is a production company out of Los Angeles. Initially, they were a lot of independent. They were just independent distributors, straight to video. Eventually, moved into film, into production, and they've sort of gained a lot of notoriety out of making mockbusters, uh, effectively low budget movies that either in theme, style, story, title, they bear some resemblance to a recently released Hollywood movie, including Transmorphers to Transformers, Day the Earth Stopped to The Day the Earth Stood Still, kind of thing. So, and a lot of people have always just looked at the boxes and gone, oh, they're exactly the same movie. And I have to say, I'm a big fan of The Asylum. I'm a big fan when their films work. I'm a big fan. They're a lot of fun. So I decided just to do a compare and contrast. Maybe do this every time there's a new Asylum movie coming out, or I got a let me just show you, I got a bit of a collection of movies, so I have quite a few of their movies, and as well as the movies they're mocking or knocking off or ripping off, whatever you want to call it. So I might review some of those other ones and do a compare and contrast. But I'm starting with After Earth and Apocalypse Earth, AE Apocalypse Earth. My first thoughts about After Earth is it's kind of average. Is this a me movie? Story is that the Earth is now uninhabitable. Humans leave, and when we get to this new planet, aliens deposit these big monsters called Ursas, and the only way, and they're creatures that can smell fear, and the only person who seems to be able to fight them with almost impunity is Will Smith, because he can ghost, he can control his fears so much that they can't pick up the scent, so he's able to combat them. He has a very strained relationship with his son, played by his real life son, Jaden Smith, and his wife convinces him that they need to spend time together. They need to get to know each other. So take him to this other planet where we're establishing another colony, spend some time, get to know your son, and on the way there, their ship encounters an asteroid field, gets hit. They try to jump, which is effectively their version of warping, to this other planet, and they wind up back at Earth, and the ship crash lands, and Jaden Smith has to go get the beacon so they can get rescued because Will Smith, his legs are broken and he's stuck in the ship. Um, this is a film that I honestly felt I was watching a third part of a trilogy. That the opening of the film is a 2 minute, 3 minute um, rehash of why we're leaving Earth, this new planet, Ursa's ghosting. It covers all that in about 3 minutes, and the detail I just gave you is about all the detail you get in the movie. And that's really depressing because those 3 minutes got me interested. I was like, okay, cool monsters. I'm always down for monsters. I love monsters. The idea of that they're hunting you by fear and controlling, you have to control your fear, prevent your sweat and your heartbeat and all that is really interesting. And there's no detail. There's no explanation when we get to this new planet, Nova Prime, as I remember. There's no detail of why these aliens. They said the aliens came and deposited the Ursas to kill humans. There's no explanation of who these aliens are. Are they, is Nova Prime their home planet and we try to forcibly take it from them? Is their home planet dying and they wanted to colonize it and we just got there first? What is the backstory behind us fighting these things? I want to know that. I want to know that backstory, and that could have spent time developing Will Smith's character as well as developing his relationship with his son to get to the point that we see in the third film where it's very estranged. Will Smith is a very stoic, very militaristic. Expects his son to act like they're on base all the time, even when they're back home in their apartment. So there's this not a lot of detail given in After Earth, and that's my biggest problem with it. You have to explain certain things when you make a film. You have to put in believable reality. Okay, you can go, okay, here's your universe. Whatever happens here makes total sense. Like Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth doesn't make much sense to us, but in their world it makes sense. But instead of just saying, "Oh, the Nine Rings of Power," and going off on that, they spend a lot of time in Lord of the Rings explaining the Nine Rings, the history of these races, the history of the world. They don't just give, they give a slight recap at the start of the movie, but then they keep going into detail. After Earth doesn't go into detail, and I wanted detail. I wanted to get, okay, why is this going on? Why are we here? How did we get to this point? What's the story before that? And I felt the story before what was being told in After Earth was more interesting, you know. So I felt that in a way we were being told the wrong story. Um, but that's almost beside the point because that's not the story they chose to tell. The story they chose to tell is his son, played by Jaden Smith, Kita, has to go retrieve the beacon from the tail section of the ship, which is like 60 miles or 100 kilometers away from where they are at the front of the ship. And it's about as threadbare as you can make a movie. It's about as basic as you can make a survival movie. Kita goes from point A to point B, and yeah, he does encounter some killer monkeys, and he encounters some big cats and some birds and other things, but it doesn't go into a lot of development. It feels the film kind of plops you with these characters already developed, and we didn't see enough of that. There really just isn't a lot of character development in this movie. You know, it's an average movie. That's the thing is the thing that impresses me about After Earth is there was potential there, and it's when a film has potential and just kind of dips its toes in the water of going somewhere really interesting, and then going, no, we're gonna pull back and we're just gonna keep going across the surface. That's when I get really depressed because I can't really pull a lot from an average film. I can get something from a bad movie. I can get some sort of enjoyment out of a bad film. I can get enjoyment out of a good film. But an average film, there's really not much you can pull from an average movie. You just kind of go, it was okay, but not much else. I can't. There are some things I can fault in this movie, and I'll get to that in a bit. But the story, it's one of those that it's a frustratingly average film because there was potential. There was potential to offer something interesting, to do something interesting. Have the creatures. This is about 1,000 years after we've left Earth. Show some more exotic animals than beyond a giant bird and some giant monkeys, primates, if I want to be politically correct. Show them a little more exotic and bright, vivid colors or camouflage, something interesting, and there really isn't. You know, there's once again one of the cool things about this film. One of the interesting things is once again the Ursas, these big monsters that can sense your fear. I want to learn about them. I want to learn their biology, how they function. We're told they're basically blind. Okay, they're blind, they're deaf, they only sense fear. Are they naturally occurring in the environment? Is there are they the apex predator in their own environment? Were they created in some sort of lab as a biological weapon? What's the point of who are they? I love learning about monsters. I love getting tantalized and hearing about them, their biology. That gets me excited. That speaks to the small child within me. There really isn't. And speaking of the Ursas, the big fault I have with this movie is Jaden Smith has this weapon. It's called a cutlass. It's the staff that you constantly see in the trailers that he's playing with, and when he presses the buttons on it, blades come out of either side, and they shape to different forms and all that. So it's really cool, and that's like really cool. I'm like, oh, that looks awesome. But then you see the Ursa, and my reaction when I saw this creature, I'm like, you know, I really don't want to be 3 feet. This is the kind of critter I don't want to be 3 feet from when I'm having to kill it. I want to be as far back from this animal as possible. They do say they do cloak, but you know, give me some heat vision goggles, give me something to see these things from a distance, or lure them into. Then I'll shoot them from a distance. The shoulder-fired nuclear warheads in Starship Troopers. That's what I want. I don't want a sword I have to be within 3 feet to use. So yeah, that was another interesting thing, but that wasn't really explained all that well about why they're using these cutlasses, why there's no machine guns or lasers or pulse weapons, why there's no sort of firearms. It's all bladed weapons, which is fine, certain things, but I get irritated in creature films when you see a big scary monster and all the guys who know they're going to go face the big scary monster, they're carrying little guns. It has never made sense to me. It's one of my biggest annoyances. But getting back to the Falls After Earth, Will Smith, he's the king of charisma. There's really few actors who are as charismatic as he is. And he is trying to play the very stoic father, very, I have been in the military, I can control my fear, I can control all my emotions. And there are actors, I think, who can hit that point and still show a bit of humanity. He hits it so hard, he's absolute deadpan, unemotional, wooden. And it hurts me to say that because Will Smith is a fantastic actor, and I'm sure he could pull it off, but he just takes it too much to the extreme. He wasn't pulled back. So and which really sucks because his performance is entirely from a chair. The perspective you see me at is generally the perspective you see Will Smith. And with his charismatic self, yeah, he could carry a whole film just sitting right here, but he's so bland that he is kind of boring. The other main actor, obviously his son Jaden Smith as Kita. I saw the Karate Kid, the remake, and he was decent in it. This film, he wasn't that good. I'll be honest. He wasn't that good. He didn't. He I think he needed a little more charisma or something to carry the movie, and he just didn't have it. I feel bad about saying it because he's a teenager, and I'm 25, and I feel bad about bashing him, but I'm not really. I'm just saying that I think he just didn't have it to carry this movie at this point maybe in his career, And I understand, obviously, he wanted to do it when he's still young enough to, so he play opposite his dad. But still, he just didn't have it to. He just didn't really carry the film with charisma or with something going on that would have been interesting. So both performances from the two folks you spend 98% of the movie with are just bland and uninteresting. I will say Will Smith's performance is better than Marky Mark in The Happening, which brings us to the director, writer, and one of the writers. The other writer being Gary Whitta, who wrote Book of Eli. Good film, by the way, good film. Is M. Night Shyamalan. And I did read some production history about After Earth. Will Smith wanted to work with Shyamalan for a couple years. There was never a project they could work on together until this came up. And Will Smith did generate the idea for After Earth, I'll say that. Shyamalan, I've always maintained Shyamalan is a really good ideas guy. The Happening is a really good idea behind it. I feel like Shyamalan just needs a writer who can just take his ideas and just focus them and clean up some of the excess, the stuff that maybe isn't needed. This is kind of a film that, just basing on from what I've seen of the movie to guess what the script was, no one really could have done much else with it. If they had a different director, visually it kind of looked different. Now this did look like a M. Night Shyamalan film, in how he composes the shots, moves the camera. So visually, I was like, okay, I can. This kind of falls in line with his other movies, less The Last Airbender. I would say that's a very different movie, but so visually, it is Shyamalan. Otherwise, you take his name off the movie. You could have told me, oh, they gave this to some new director who's done a couple of shorts, and this was his feature debut. Or you could have said, oh, this director who's done a lot of television is directing. You couldn't tell the difference. It wasn't. There was no twist at the end of the movie, so there's no Shyamalan. What a twist! Um, so I'm not going to fault Shyamalan for this. This is a film that sort of got hurt in as a script, and he was a co-writer on the script, so I can duly some blame on him. But as a film, fully visualizing that, I really don't think many other people. It really could have been almost anybody directing this, and it visually could have looked different. They could have cut some scenes differently, and obviously it would be, but the story would have effectively remained the same. So that's it. After Earth is kind of meh. Not, it doesn't really offend me in terms of how bad it is. It doesn't really get me excited about being good. It's just very middle of the road. So, but that brings us to Apocalypse Earth, Halt from the Asylum. Um, so this is Earth, like After Earth. I'll do a quick recap. Apocalypse Earth, the AE in the title refers to the ship they're evacuating called the Albert Einstein. And there's reference to that there are other of these arcs that have escaped Earth. Earth is under alien attack, and we have to leave. So we leave, and the ship, everyone goes in cryostasis, and the ship crash lands some undetermined time later upon this planet, and they run into these these alien beings called chameleons because they're invisible, like the Predator. They have that active camouflage, and they fight. So humans have to run, and so basically a movie of humans trying to find a way to get off this planet, and they run into this woman called Leela. Trying to remember the name. Leah, who is this humanoid who is like completely covered in this beautiful makeup. It's head to toe body paint, a lot of greens, so it's like camouflage. And huge props to the makeup department because that looked absolutely stunning. So huge props to the makeup department. And so they have to find a way to survive and hopefully get off the planet. So and it's this is directed by Thunder Levine, and that's his name is Thunder Levine. He directed American Warships, the mockbuster Battleship that came out last year, which got Universal a little pissed off at them when it was titled American Battleships. That was a fun movie, and I would say that was a little better than Battleship. I enjoyed that a little more than Battleship. AE Apocalypse Earth, I had fun with it. It's obviously this is a film that obviously is done for $500,000 to $1 million. Its budget does show, but this is a film that I enjoyed. I had fun with it. I wasn't like constantly looking at my Blu-ray player and going, how much longer is this gonna go on? It was fun. There was quite a few action scenes in the film. There was fighting various bugs and chameleons and some giant Komodo dragon lizards. So the film was fun. I enjoyed it. It moved at a nice pace, and as a difference, I would say for a lot of low budget exploitation movies, there was time spent on character development, which was a very welcome surprise because I would say a lot of it silent pictures and a lot of other low budget pictures, characters only exist to take you to the next set piece. It's like, okay, every 10 to 15 minutes there's going to be another set piece and another set piece. And so it just becomes a drag. You just have action scene after action scene after action scene. And this film there was action scenes, there was set pieces, but they were spaced well enough parts whenever a new one came, it felt fresh. It wasn't like I was being exhausted with all this action that was going on. And so that was really welcome. I really liked that. The fact there was time spent on the story and developing these characters and their relationships. Um, I'm not I'm not going to try to make it sound like I'm lying to you by saying, oh, this is like Coen Brothers level. Everyone's very nuanced. It's not that. there's still sort of the stock characters of the military soldier, the scientist, the guy who's like, why is the military guy in charge? And there is still that, but as is, it's entertaining, and there's some comic relief, which is always very welcome. There's this android character who is the stock, I'm here to help humans in any way I can. And he does, being an android, being fairly oblivious to human nature, is he does get a couple laughs out of he did get a couple laughs out of me and did help ease the tension a couple of times and lighten the mood. So that was very welcome. Um, so yeah, I really enjoyed After. See, I'm confusing myself. You succeeded, Asylum. I really enjoyed Apocalypse Earth. It is what it is. It is a science fiction film that it does exist because After Earth is coming out, but it tries to be more. It goes a little more beyond that. Instead of just saying, right, we're humans crashing on a planet, and there's it's after Earth has evacuated, action, aliens, giant monsters, fight. So there is a stretch to push it beyond that, make it more than obviously what it should have been. So it is what it is. It is a low budget science fiction movie on the higher end of low budget science fiction movies. So it's not trying to be the constant action movie that a lot of low budget movies try to be, constantly giving you action all the time. And I was very appreciative of that. So I did like that. There was obviously a lot more characters in this film than After Earth, surprisingly. Adrian Paul. I'm just having to quote the the Blu-ray. Adrian Paul from the Highlander TV series. Uh, I never saw that. I've never seen the Highlander TV series. I'll be honest. I've seen Highlander 1 and 2. I've seen parts of 3 and parts of 4. I really haven't seen it. I might have seen the last two all the way through, but it's been years, so I really have very vague memories. Adrian Paul plays the uh, human soldier. He plays the sergeant, and so he's the fairly stoic guy, and I would say he does a little. He brings a little more emotion than Will Smith. He does. So he plays the role exactly to what it should be, and he does fine. I've heard some people they don't like Adrian Paul's acting. I was cool with it. Um, Opposite him and the other name on the box art is Richard Greco. I don't know how to pronounce it. From 21 Jump Street and Booker. I've seen them before on Almighty Thor. That's my dog. She's barking. Something interesting must be going on outside. Licorice, hush! Hush, girl! Hush! 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 Whatever. Forgive me. This is not professional. He was in Almighty Thor, Asylum's mockbuster of Thor, and he was fun in that. In this film, he once again plays a stoic captain, scientist, doctor guy. Once again, the acting it does meet the expectations of what I was expecting from it. The one interesting bit was Bali Rodriguez, who, according to the behind the scenes, is a Costa Rican supermodel because they shot the film in Costa Rica, and she's the one covering the head to toe body paint, and she was pretty good. She played this alien who sort of picked up human phrases from just listening it in, and so she was able to communicate in just little spurts. So she was fine. The acting in the film is fine. It is what it is. But I still enjoyed it. I still enjoy the movie. It is fun. I do enjoy good low budget movies. There is a charm to them that I have always found appealing. When I was growing up, AMC, the TV station, would show a lot of science fiction, horror, and fantasy movies on Saturday mornings at 8 and 10 o'clock. It was a double feature. So I would sit down there when I was like 8, 9, and 10 and watch these movies. Them, The Deadly Mantis, Jason the Argonauts. So I was exposed to these sort of movies at a very young age, so those films have always appealed to me. So these kind of films have always appealed to that young kid in me, because they remind me of my childhood. So yeah, I enjoyed Apocalypse Earth, AE Apocalypse Earth. I did enjoy it. I liked it. It's definitely one of Asylum's stronger mockbusters. which I guess will lead us directly into compare and contrast between the pair of them. So let's get the first one out of the way. First off, budget. After Earth costs like $130 million. This one that costs $500,000 to $1 million. But the big difference, though, is story. Now, if you look at the artwork, and I don't have a poster for After Earth, so I really can't show you this, but this, beyond the title, this really does not look like After Earth. And on the back cover art, it says it's Avatar meets Predator. I would say the Avatar part is kind of correct. The alien character played by Bali Rodriguez, the green one, is sort of like the Natiri character, I would say, and Predator is because of the chameleons, I would say. But yeah, this doesn't happen, but neither does this. But you know what? It's eye-catching artwork. I like. It's a lot better artwork than the After Earth poster, I would say. A lot better artwork. But beyond the title, there really isn't any similarity. Really, there's very few similarities between the films. Humans evacuate Earth. That's been done before. And in After Earth, they come back to Earth accidentally and crash land. In this film, they land on another planet. And there's a twist at the end of Apocalypse Earth, and you can probably guess what it is. That's one thing. The Shyamalan film doesn't have a twist, but the film knocking off a Shyamalan movie does have a twist. So maybe that, Shyamalan's not going to do a twist anymore. But so really, between the pair, beyond budgetary differences, the big difference I did notice was that After Earth feels more like the Asylum version, and Apocalypse Earth feels more like a Hollywood version, a low budget Hollywood version. And what I mean by that is obviously because of budgetary constraints or production restraints, Asylum films generally take the log line from a movie, the one sentence summation of what a movie is, and go, right, we're going to deliver on that one line. Like Transformers. What is it? Oh, it's giant robots fighting each other. Transmorphers, humans fighting giant robots. Basically distilling the film down to its barest components and deliver the action, which has been done by exploitation movies for years. The numerous Roger Corman knockoffs of Jaws and Alien are really just set pieces to show an alien or giant animal killing people. So After Earth, when I say it feels more like an Asylum film, it feels lower budget because there's two characters, predominantly two characters, limited amount of locations or static locations. It does look like it was shot in the Redwood Forest in California, and Apocalypse Earth was filmed in Costa Rica, so there's a jungle appearance, which gives it a little more production value. And Apocalypse Earth does offer a lot more action than After Earth. After Earth, the monkey chase scene that you see in the trailers of Jaden Smith, there's a brief shot of Will Smith fighting an Ursa, and there's obviously Jaden Smith having to fight an Ursa later in the film, and Jaden Smith fights that big saber-toothed tiger. And that's really about it. That's about all the set pieces that you get in the film. Apocalypse Earth does offer quite a bit more. It starts with a bang. They fight some giant bugs. They fight chameleons a couple of times. They fight Komodo dragons. There's a battle at the end. So this is much more of an action film, and it feels, if it had a lot more money, it could have delivered on more of that. And in some way, this feels to be the more complex version, or the more complex of the pair. But beyond that, beyond those really strenuous connections, they're both fairly different. After Earth is a father and son story. For what it is a father and son story. It's father and son kind of bonding, sort of. And Apocalypse Earth is a story of survival and getting home and people working together. And obviously two different races, because there's this other band of humanoids who live on a planet that we humans have formed an alliance with. So it is what it is. It is sort of like Avatar in a sense. But really, the both of them don't have a lot of similarities beyond the cover, beyond the artwork, beyond the title. and the basic notion of humans evacuate Earth. Sometime later, a group of people wind up on a planet, and stuff happens. So beyond that, there's really not much of a similarity. Um, so that's about it. About in terms of comparing and contrasting. Should you see them? I would say After Earth. I mean, if you're going to see it in the theater because you like Will Smith, you're going to see it in the theater regardless if I tell you yes or no. I would say, honestly, if you want to watch in the theater, discounted ticket. If you go, if your theater does a discounted movie time, if there's a if you have a pass or something, you can use that. I wouldn't necessarily want to pay full price for it. It just didn't. I was not satisfied by the end of the movie. If you want to wait, you want to red box it, Netflix it. It won't be. You might get a little more out of it than I did. Um, so After Earth, I really, being an average movie, I really can't hit on it too bad and say no, you should stay away from it. At the same time, I really can't give it a full recommendation. So it's half and half. Apocalypse Earth, on the other hand, I'd say rent it. You know what? I had fun. I am a fan of B movies. It does appeal to me. So I would say rent it. It might be a little different than what you expected. Rent it, Redbox it, Netflix it, do whatever. It's at least worth a watch. It's at least worth one rental. I would say if you're a fan of low budget science fiction like I am. So, and between the pair, is one better, one worse? Mm, I kind of have to side with Apocalypse Earth on this one. It's a little better, just because it did trump my expectations, and After Earth really didn't meet what I expected. So that's about it. So I might continue on doing block versus mock as maybe another series because I got plenty of Asylum movies. Got plenty of Asylum movies, so I might do more. I might not. This might just be a one-off thing. Who knows? Depends on the time. Depends how much information my iPhone can hold. But goodbye to the 12 people who will watch this video. All right.